Real people, real breakthroughs. This is the Psychology of Eating podcast, where psychology and nutrition meet to uncover the true causes of our unwanted eating concerns. Your relationship with food will never be the same. Now, here's your host, eating psychology expert, and founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, Mark David.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Mark David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. We are back in the Psychology of Eating podcast, and I'm with Dan today. Welcome, Dan.
Hello. How you going?
I am doing good. Let me just take a moment and check in with viewers and listeners who are new to the podcast. Let me tell you how it works. Dan and I have just been kind of hanging out for a few minutes before we jumped on here. So we're meeting for the first time. We're going to have a session for about an hour or less and see if we can do some smart things and move the needle forward and push the fast forward button and, hopefully get to a good place. So, Dr. Dan, I'm going to call you. If you could just wave your magic wand and kind of come out from this conversation with something that would be really useful for you, what would that outcome be?
Probably to find more energy is the number one. I'm kind of constantly exhausted these days. In a way, I just feel like my life is disorganized, a little bit over the shop. I feel like I'm reacting to things rather than responding necessarily. I feel like time management is a massive issue of mine, and that's probably feeding into the exhaustion. But, to tell you the truth, my eating has been a bit dodgy as well, and I think that it's just kind of been, I think it's all related perhaps, but if I could get anything out of this, I'd love to get some good health habits, routine, and just to delve into, I guess, why I'm doing this. I'm a bit of a loss.
Good question. I love that. Thanks for being so honest. Why don't you give me a sense, give me a sense, what's like, talk about kind of how your life looks these days, and what is life for you?
Well, I'm 38. I'm a GP, so that's a family physician, I think, in the US there. Mm-hmm. I'm also an acupuncturist, so I do acupuncture. I work in a relatively straight-laced, I guess, general practice for 4 days a week. And I try to bring in my style of care, which is, I'd like to think, more holistic and whatnot. But then 1 day a week, I'm now just starting a practice with a number of other great professionals, I guess, yoga teachers, craniosacral, masseuses, naturopaths. So I'm trying to get that off the ground as well. Mm-hmm. And so that's very exciting. I've been wanting to do that kind of thing for a long time now. I'm married and have a lovely 5-year-old boy who's energy. He's great. He's lovely, but he's tiring as well. And yeah, married, I think, happily. Mm-hmm. And live in a beautiful area on the beach, close to rainforest. So all on that surface, it's exciting and whatnot. But I think the main thing is that, I'm waking up just want to go back to sleep. I'm just exhausted all the time. At work particularly, and that's the more concerning thing for me, is that the more fatigue I get, the less I find I'm able to, I guess, be present with the people I'm with clients. Mm-hmm. That is a worry of mine because I don't want that to get any worse. It's, it's very much my passion and my heart is, in that setting. And, so, I mean, that's where I'm at, I guess. I have weekends off on the whole, and they're pretty nice. My wife's family live around about an hour away, and we often drive up there to catch up. Otherwise, summer's coming down here, so it's lovely. It's getting really hot actually. So I get to the beach. There's a creek, a lovely creek nearby. Mm-hmm. We have a pool, so I go falling in that now and again. And So on very much, I feel like I have nothing to complain about. I'm quite happy and blessed in that way, but yeah, in many other ways, I feel I'm kind of stuck in it. I don't know.
How many hours a week you've been working?
Well, I have a very civilized start of 9:15, so that's kind of nice. And I normally get home around about 6 to 6:30, and that's Monday to Thursdays. On Fridays, we've just moved to a different location in this new practice, so we're kind of still figuring out the bugs of it all. Normally, I work there from 9 to probably 1 o'clock. Still kind of finding clients, and it's really at the very beginning of that practice.
Sure. And are you the primary breadwinner in your family?
I am. My wife just graduated from primary school teaching, and she's just getting some jobs now, just casual jobs. But yeah, for a long time, decades. I've been married to my wife for ages now. So, and most of that time I have been the primary breadwinner, particularly once Elijah, my son, was born.
Yes. So how long has it been that you've been feeling like a little burned out?
It's been getting worse over probably the last 5 years, I think. It's only really got me now where, I actually have patients or clients who are telling me I look exhausted, like I haven't slept or whatnot, and that's always a little bit embarrassing when you have someone coming in who's sick and then telling me that I look horrible, which is probably true. That's the thing. I'm not paying them out.
So why do you think you've hit this point? Do you think it's overwork? Do you think it's stress? Is it both? Like if you were diagnosing yourself, you're a smart guy. What's some of your thoughts?
I don't think I have a very good balance in terms of, I'm giving myself at work, I guess. And when I come home, I'm with my family and I love that. But there'll be this certain point where Elijah goes to bed, my son goes to bed, and I feel it's my time and it's kind of my only time sometimes. And as a result, I stay up quite late, and the later I stay up, the more I kind of do little snacks of, it seems healthy, but it's, but it's just the quantity size are crazy, and so I'm getting into nuts. I have a particular weakness for cheese, I have to admit. And I'm just eating kind of snack foods in general at, lots of sugar at anywhere between 9 to 12 sometimes, 12:30. So, yeah, I feel like that's got out of hand. I'm not completely sure why that's got out of hand. So I'm a bit stumped, I guess, in terms of diagnosing myself. And I'm also aware that I think if I came to a conclusion, it's probably going to be pretty biased as well.
So then these days, what time are you usually roughly asleep by?
I'm trying to make an effort to go to sleep before 10, but realistically, these days, 11:30 or 12 would be a normal night for me.
Got it. And then you're up at what time?
Around 7 or 7:30.
Okay. So then maybe you get about 7-8 hours of sleep at the most, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess so. Elijah always has to jump on me and kind of semi-wake me up, and kind of grumpy dad in the morning. But yes, probably 7 hours.
Let me ask you this question: are you under a physician's care? Are you under somebody's care who you trust, you like, and looking at your labs and all that sort of thing?
No, as a general rule, I think doctors make the worst patients.
Oh, they do. 100% agree. 100% agree. But
I think,
here's a challenge. Doctors make the worst patients, but doctors also have some of the most bizarre pressure on them of just about any profession, because we want our doctors to be gods. We want them to be right. We want them to do everything right, because you doing everything right means my health is going to be safe. The training of a doctor is a burnout kind of training. So the training itself basically teaches you to be in a lifestyle that's impossible to maintain, a work style. So doctors are really given a very odd beginning, which is push, 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 push. Some of them shake it off and some don't, because it has its demands depending on where you're working, what hospital, etc. So all I'm saying is that I feel for you, because the odd thing is, here you are in this profession, but you're an insider, so you can't always get the best of it in a weird way. Is there somebody that you have in mind who's local to you that you would say, okay, I could trust that person? Somebody who's got some good distinctions and good training and good skills, who can help you do a little bit of detective work?
Yeah, there is. There's someone who I work with. I used to be a nurse before I was a doctor, and he used to be a nurse as well before he was a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good guy, and he does understand that holistic side. I've gone to him in the past years ago for random signatures here and there, for a driver's license or whatnot. He's probably a guy to go to. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's funny. It's easy to get embarrassed. I think that's
yeah.
one of the.
Yeah. First and foremost, Dan, what I'm wanting for you is like what I'm getting from what you've just shared. It's like you pour your heart and soul into what you're doing, your life, your family, your work, and you're feeling a little fried. We don't know exactly why. There could be something going on. There could be some metabolic issue. There could be some imbalance going on. And the challenge is, you're a doctor, so you're around this stuff. Part of you wants to be immune to it all.
Pretty much.
Part of you wants to be immune. I get it. Well, if I'm a doctor, I shouldn't get sick. And there's a level which I can totally relate. Because I have self-treated myself forever. And I had to stop that, because I also hit a burnout point. And the hardest thing about hitting the burnout point was having to admit to myself that I can't do this alone. I don't want to figure it out. I literally don't want to figure it out by myself. It's too hard. It's hard to have your patients be your relatives, your kids, and yourself. It's very difficult. So all I'm trying to say is, to me, I want to see you start to get people who are supporting you and in your corner, and where you could just go, hey, tell me what to do. What do you think? How should we proceed? But it has to be people that you trust. Because I would love to see just some standard blood tests done, standard hormone tests, just kind of find out what's going on.
I did do some labs probably 2 months, maybe 3 months ago.
Anything interesting? What did you find?
Not a hell of a lot. My liver, kidneys, salts, all of that are good. Thyroid is good. Cholesterol, strangely, was good or okay. I did some magnesium, selenium, your trace elements were fine. If I recall, probably my magnesium was a bit low, actually, or at least borderline.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was some low-grade acute inflammation. My CRP was elevated.
Mm-hmm.
I think my cortisol was mildly elevated as well, which I guess goes with the territory.
Right. Did you look at testosterone?
No, I didn't actually. No.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it might be an interesting piece of the puzzle to check out. So far there's a little bit of a cleaner bill of health, and at least on paper.
Yeah.
Right, it's on paper, but we know you're feeling different. How hard it is for you to take time off at this point?
Look, as long as I've got probably 2 weeks notice, I can do that. So, I mean, that's reasonable. There's a lot of practitioners from the Monday to Thursday, and it's a pretty good understanding that you can take time off. For this Friday, it's just starting up. I want to get that word of mouth. I want to get kind of a client role, if you know what I mean. So it's probably be a bit difficult in my mind at the moment to take, those Fridays off. But, I mean, the health comes first at the end of the day.
Yeah, because it feels to me, plain and simple, like you need some momentum in your court, some momentum towards your health. So momentum to me means, okay, we get a practitioner who can help you out, and we start taking a little bit more time off, and you start doing things that rejuvenate you, that are very specifically all about rejuvenating you. So you have to tell me what that is for you. Like, I know what rejuvenates me is good acupuncture, good massage, a little bit of time off and just being by the ocean. Like, literally, it feels like a part of you needs to catch up and come back. And maybe it's also just a part of you needs a little bit of quiet to see, like, who am I? And what's going on here?
Yeah, look, and that resonates a lot, really, and I think that's probably part of the issue, I don't know, in the last particularly years, is that I have felt that, I've walked away from something that I held on to myself, walked away from a part of my identity or whatnot. It's very difficult to explain, I guess, at the moment, but I usually do a martial art, and that's, for some weird reason, I put that down. I've just felt too exhausted to do it. The ocean, definitely. And now that it's coming summer, I found my health in general, particularly more my lung capacity and whatnot, has decreased to the degree that I can't go in and do the kind of more full-on things I used to do.
Yeah.
So, that kind of gets me to... I mean, to me, the irony is that all I have to do is get back into it, and probably my lung capacity will get better. But I don't know, it does make a difference. I see motivation is a problem.
Yeah. So motivation is a problem in part because you're tired, in part because you're burnt out a little bit, I think, and in part because you're probably in a mild, and I mean mild, version of a midlife crisis. And I think these days what I start to notice with men anyway is they don't just have a midlife crisis. There's usually 2 or 3 that can come along, which is a good thing. Like, I look at it as just time to look in the mirror and say, who am I? What's going on? What do I want? What's important to me? What helps me be a man in this world and feel good about myself? So the tricky thing is, right around the age that you're at is when mortality starts to creep in. When you say, I don't have the same lung capacity anymore. Correct. You don't. You're not going to have the same anything capacity anymore. So it's harder to just kind of get up and be a Superman, because the habits that got you to this point have to change. The habits that got you through life, through medical school, through sports, through martial arts, whatever they are, they're changing because you're getting a little older, and we got to refine our game. We as men, we as people, as we get older, we need to play a more tighter, specific game, because otherwise the body's gonna talk to you.
Yeah, I feel like it's doing that already.
Yeah, so body's talking to you. The body's talking to you, and you're going to have to move past your resistance to being the doctor and the healer who usually is taking care of everybody else, and you got to let it in. You got to let it in, you got to invite it in, and you kind of have to be the general manager of your own healing journey here. So I'm wanting to, so here's my selfish desire for you. Okay, I'm going to just be very selfish right now. My selfish desire for you is that you say to yourself, I want to go on a bit of a healing journey. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I want to focus on my healing like never before. Focus on my health in a different way. That doesn't mean you have to be a fanatic. It just means to start to identify the little things. Little things. I'm not talking about big, humongous things. Little things day to day to day that will start to put some gas in your tank. Because it just feels like the tank, it doesn't have a lot of gas in it, and you're good at running on fumes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have for a while. I think I'm a good improviser.
You are.
No, I think that's got me through a bunch, but it's not a good way to be, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. So it's about rest, it's about time off, it's about whatever it is that fills you up that doesn't take a lot of effort. You know?
Yeah.
And I would do a little bit more sleuthing. I'd be interested for you to check out your testosterone level, because oftentimes if it's a little low, that's enough to take away enough of the edge, so we do become less motivated.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to lower with stress for sure, and it's going to lower with less exercise and movement for a man. And you know, so that could potentially make a difference for you. But it sounds to me like it's a mindset shift, because even what you shared about what you do at night, you know, sometimes, which is like, hey, you know, I find myself eating, and maybe it's good food, maybe it's not good food, but it's like all of a sudden I'm eating. And it could be for a number of hours. So here's how I read that. Here's what that tells me. What that tells me is, you said evening time for me, that's my time. I get it. You're a dad. You work during the day, your kid's asleep, and all of a sudden, finally, you're not responsible for all these humans, you know. So good for you. So you made it to that point. And what's happening is there's so much discomfort in your system that the best way your body knows how to manage that is with food. Food is right now for you the best way, and it's the easiest way for you to manage your discomfort. So when you're eating at night, all I'm hearing is you're entertaining your taste buds, you're stress reducing, you're probably also reaching for nutrition that your body's hungry for. Because if you're not nourishing yourself well during the day, you will want to eat like that at night. It is predictable. If you gave me $1 million to turn somebody into a nighttime binge eater, I would just be working them during the day, starving them a little bit, make sure they skip meals and don't get enough good food, and they'll be binging in the evening time. Are you eating? Okay, so there we go. So what you're doing at night, just so you know, actually makes perfect sense. It's what you should be doing, because you're actually listening to your body signals. Your body's telling you hungry and nutrition starved and in need of stress reduction. Hungry, nutrition starved, in need of stress reduction. So those are three things we can handle in a different way, in a better way. But that's what you're using them for, and it makes perfect sense, because your system needs more nutrition. It's not getting it during the day. So what happens when the brain is finally a little bit relaxed, no kid, no patients, just me, what the first thing that comes up is basic survival needs. Hungry. Need nutrition. Need density. If you're going for nuts and cheese, what that tells me is your body's needing density. It needs grounding. It needs strong nutrition. So is it possible for you to have time for a meal or two during the day?
Yeah, I mean, I really try to, particularly for lunch, I try to keep to a Chinese medical kind of orrery clock where I really want to eat lunch around 12 to 1 with others, the heart time. But I don't know, practically it's very difficult. And over the last couple of weeks particularly, I've just had these huge days, just lots of particularly mental health stuff. And so, it's not, I'd say a third of the time I'm working, I probably eat virtually nothing, really, stuff here and there. And I guess that's one of the things, into coming back to the magic wand, I'd like to kind of problem solve. I don't know how to get around that other than maybe nibbling on stuff as I go. But
So let me ask this question. Is it possible to have a scheduled, so your schedule, like there's like a 20-minute lunch period, like 20 minutes. Is that possible?
That's a good idea. I can get the receptionist to just say, don't book between this time and this time.
Right. So what I'm looking for you is a scheduled time where the books are clear at a consistent time as best as possible every day. Consistent time. Here's my fill in the blank. If you could do 20 minutes, 20. If you could do 30, great. If it's only 15, great. But 15 minimum, 15 minutes. So there's your time where it's you and nourishment.
Yeah.
Now, where's the food coming from? Who makes the food for you?
Yeah, so Peter, my wife, she's an excellent cook. So and now and again, I'll bring stuff in. I get a fair amount of, it's kind of like a shallow fried chili calamari. So from a sushi place of all places. And otherwise, then there's a tavern pretty much next door. And I don't have a drink or anything, but they have good. I feel like it sometimes, but they have good food there. I wouldn't necessarily say I'd always get the the best, but I try to get salad. It's an odd thing though, because I don't eat. I'm there and I'm talking to others, and I end up not really eating a lot. I kind of, I think I must be still unwinding from the morning, but I eat probably anything from a beef salad to fish and chips, really. You got a burger. It's not bakery food in the morning. Sometimes it's definitely not the way I want to be. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So I'm interested. So to me, it's going to be a nice evolution for you to have a consistent slot every day you're at work where there's going to be a meal time, and you either bring in your meal. I'm almost not caring what you're eating because I'm hearing that you're going to make at least some good choices. I want you to have food. I want you to actually be clear that you're nourishing yourself and you're going to try to make the best choices possible. When you don't, that's fine. But even if you go next door to eat, you have to figure out a way where you're eating. So if that means bringing the food into the office and eating by yourself so you don't get distracted, because what's going to happen is, you are unwinding, and if you go next door and if you get distracted, that kind of circumvents the whole point here, which is I want to get you feeding yourself during the day. At a regular time, get a meal in there. I don't care if it's fish and chips. I don't care if it's a big salad. I don't care what it is. Whatever it is, get food in there. Next, what I would love to say is pack what you feel like are healthy snacks. Have your wife make you some healthy snacks. Pack what you feel are healthy, small, tiny mini meals. And find times during the day to take 5 minutes and fuel yourself. So think of it as I'm taking 5 minutes to fuel. And anybody could stop for 5 minutes and fuel. And so the net result is you're putting attention on your nourishment. And especially if you could do a little bit of forethought in bringing food in so you're not stuck, I don't know, without food, without what you want to have. So it's a little bit more pre-planned. You know you're bringing these things in for the day. And I don't care, honestly, if you snack 4 or 5 times when you're at work. This is about you adapting to your lifestyle. So we are like creatures in the wild. Okay, so it's winter. Great, we're going to eat differently. It's summer. We're going to eat differently. The food source got cut off. Okay, we have to wander a little bit further. So we're being wild animals, and we are adjusting to our environment. So if you can't take 2 hours for a meal, then great, take 15 minutes for a meal. And if you're going to be working on your feet all day and giving out energy, I want you to at least have snacks and go, okay, here's a snack here, here's a snack there. That'll give you consistent nourishment, and it'll give you nourishment when you need it. Because that's when you're doing all your activity is during the day. Right? So that's when you need to be fueled. So it makes sense to me that you're going to feel burned out, or even you're going to get inflamed, because if that's your output, if you're outputting during the day, if you're hunting and gathering during the day, and you don't have a fuel source, you're going to burn out. Eating at night is not working for you. Eating the bulk of your calories in the last third of your day is not going to work for you. You follow me?
Yeah, I do. And, that makes sense. It really does. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Dan, also another part of this here, and I've kind of said this, but I want to emphasize it again, which is this is you as a man making a choice to take care of yourself in a whole different way. You have to step out of immortality. Like you are functioning, and trust me, I did this up until my 40s. I functioned as if I was an immortal teenager, meaning I could do whatever I want because I had a strong body, I took good care of myself, and so I push myself. I push. Think of your child. Think of this as a long-term game. This is a long-term game. You want to be around for when your kid goes to medical school or your kid graduates college or whatever it is. You want to be there for the grandkids. Okay, I'm assuming. So you got to be healthy. If you want to be a good father, you got to be a healthy father. Number one. So this is not just you taking care of you. This is you taking care of your people. Meaning wife and kids. So it's like extra level of oomph and push and commitment there, because right now it's not just you not taking care of you, it's you kind of not really 100% being responsible in your role. If you're the primary breadwinner and you're the father and you got a little kid, I'm sorry, you got to take care of yourself. You're smarter than that. So I'm just being big brother here and tell you like I want you to do this for you and for them.
No, it resonates hard. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's time. That's the other thing.
It's time. You need a little push here. You need a little push, but I want to make sure that there's people kind of urging you on a little bit. So who can be in your support system of people who are going to be by your side going, okay, Dan, are you bringing meals today? Are you taking a little extra time off? Are you getting to the ocean? Are you getting acupuncture? Are you who is that person or people?
Well, definitely my wife. She's great.
Yes.
In that regard.
Great.
In lots of regards. I have some great friends, and we've gone through a lot of health journeys education and whatnot together. They live around about an hour away, or even an hour and a half away. But I should link up with them. I used to call them all the time. I used to visit them much more often. But that's kind of fallen by the wayside, and they've always been great I've known them for a long time, and they don't kind of hold their punches, I guess. They tell me what I don't want to hear sometimes, which is exactly what I should hear, I think.
Right.
So I need to. I think it would do well to get back into nurturing that relationship more. Mm-hmm. And I think the people are on this Friday new practice. There's psychologists who have gone on. We've kind of started this adventure, if you will, together, and she's very good. She's a good listener. I mean, she has the skills, I guess, in many ways, but she cares. She's a lovely person. Mm-hmm. So, to a degree, I feel a little bit of trepidation about that, because I feel like I'm going into a venture and then kind of asking for help, essentially. Mm-hmm. So, but I know that she'll be fine with it, and she's a lovely person, so I think it'll be fine. I think they're probably my main go-to. I also have some other friends who, again, are around about an hour away. And they're very good as well. They're nice and supportive. They have the same kind of mentality or outlook as myself. And it's just really fun to be with those guys. And again, I feel like in a way, now that you asked the question and I'm answering, I feel like I have cut myself off a little bit from these good friends, good support.
Yeah. Life happens, like we become parents and, your kid becomes your focus. So totally understandable. And then work becomes a focus. And then, family is a focus. And then all of a sudden getting sleep becomes a focus. And finding some energy becomes a focus. So it's understandable is all I'm saying. And it just feels like this is a time for you to start to gather up your support system so you can put gas in your tank. It's like I just keep getting like you just having situations, people around you who are supporting you in moving in this new direction, and that's a mindset shift for you. Like it's a real mindset shift because it's a little bit of humility around health and mortality. It's a little bit of humility around, hey, I could use some help and support because it's hard to do on my own here. That's plain and simple. That's why there's just lots of us in this world and not just you or me, because we need each other. So this is a good time in your life to reach out for that because, again, you're in a kind of a job that takes a lot of energy. And I have a feeling you might not even realize how much energy it takes. Because on the one hand, it's physical energy, but on another hand, it's also emotional and psychic energy when you're dealing with people's health and their health issues, their fears and their concerns. And it might be, maybe not, impacting you more than you realize. So that's why I just want you to have support in your corner, plain and simple.
It can never be a bad thing.
Right? Right?
It can never be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that's the next step then, definitely. I'll reach out. I mean, I've got a couple of free weekends coming, so I don't see why there's any reason not to travel and see some of these guys. Mm-hmm.
Or have them come to you, or even just visit over the phone. And it's really, I'm looking for anything that you can do that adds to your life, that makes you feel better, that fills up your tank, that doesn't deplete your tank.
Yeah. I feel hot and hollow, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
No, I get it. I totally get it. So there's something that your system's wanting, and I want you to get it. And part of that means you have to put it out there, you know. So we're talking regular food, regular meals for you, regular snacks at work, and then see how that affects your evening eating. We're talking about you seeing your doctor friend who can, you know, maybe advise a little bit more. Any other health services that support you and feel good and help you get more energy. I don't care what it is, literally. Especially passive stuff. Passive might be good for you. You know, when I say passive, I mean, yeah, martial arts, if you can get back into sport, great, but at the same time, if you could lay down on a table and have somebody give you a good body work.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny, I'm an acupuncturist, and I probably haven't had acupuncture on myself 5 years or something like that, something crazy.
Bad boy, that's got to change. Change that by next week, please. You should be getting regular acupuncture. It makes a difference. I get regular acupuncture. It makes a difference for me, so I know.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, good.
No, you're right. Yeah, I know. You know, excellent. There's so many acupuncturists around here as well. Mm-hmm. They're really. Some of them are great. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's part of the humility as well. Maybe you have to give that up a bit.
Yeah, because no one's going to be, you know, oftentimes nobody's as good as us in our minds. You know, it's hard for me to go to another nutrition person because it's like, that's my life and my field, and the truth is, we don't know everything, I don't know everything, and it's hard to self-treat and self-medicate. It's not, sometimes it's very effective, and other times it just ain't. So to me, you just needed a little bit of a push. You just need a little push. You just need a push. So I'm hoping this is enough of a push to get you into action, but you got to push yourself to the next place of gathering support. I would love for you to speak to your wife, you know, after this conversation and say, honey, here's what we talked about on this session. Here's what I want to enroll you in. Like, I really need to start turning things around for me, for you, for Elijah. Like, that's what the deal is here. So let's nip this in the bud. So I would rather this conversation than you talking to me, telling me you have chronic fatigue and you can't get out of bed, you know, and you can't show up for work. That would suck. So here we are at the beginning stages, taking care of business before things get out of hand. That's how I look at this time for you.
Look, that's I feel that, you know, that really resonates. Yeah. No, that really resonates. And I think you're right about the push in a way, and that, you know, this is I feel good already. I feel propelled, if that's the right word. But I feel like these last couple of years, it's that I thought it was discipline for a long time, but and it still very well could be. Mm-hmm. But you know, it just said that it's so much easier to sit on my bum and rather than, you know, get out and go. Even, you know, so my martial art often ends up just being qigong or, you know, it's more like tai chi type stuff.
That's it's perfect. That's fine.
Yeah. But even then, it's just like, oh, you know, bleh.
Yeah.
And then I go home and 10:30 I eat cheese. So yeah, I think you're right. I think a bit of a push is good. And recruiting friends resonates as well, just because I want to enjoy their company again. You know, I miss them. Yeah.
That's going to give you energy, and you know, you got to be a guy. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So, good job, my friend. You know, I think we did the piece here today that we could do together. You know, I got really clear that I wanted to inspire you to really take that step and make that leap and give yourself a little push and gather momentum, gather support, gather help, gather people who will give you a little push. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do.
Well, thank you, my friend.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, that's lovely. And, just thank you. And I don't know. Feels like it's a lovely, warm little hug. So thank you very much.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. It's an honor for me to be in this conversation with you and to be of help in any way, because you're a helper, and that's kind of what you do for a living. And sometimes the helpers need to learn a few things of how to self-help,
Yeah, indeed.
Well, great job, Dan. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Much appreciated. Once again, I'm Mark David on behalf of the Psychology of Eating podcast. Always more to come, my friends. You take care. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for listening to the Psychology of Eating podcast. To learn more about the breakthrough body of work we teach here at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, please sign up for our free video series at ipe.tips. That's I for Institute, P for Psychology, E for Eating.tips, TIPS. You'll learn about the cutting-edge principles of dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition that have helped millions of people forever transform their relationship with food, body, and health.